Hey, welcome to the Simple Nutrition Podcast, a show that helps you learn practical and actual nutrition tips from an expert. I am your host, Leonila Campos, a registered dietitian with over 8 years of experience in the nutrition field. Hey, welcome back to another episode in the Simple Nutrition Podcast. I am your host, Leonila Campos, registered dietitian, and today I want to talk to you about meal plans. I briefly mentioned, I think I did an episode on that too, but I wanted to talk about maybe the reason why most meal plans don't work. And so, and maybe what we can do to help us maybe follow a meal plan or use a meal plan to help us with our goals, or just to help us know what to make for dinner, right? Or for lunch, or whatever the case may be, because sometimes that is the problem and that is so overwhelming. Like, what do I cook today, right? And then oftentimes if we make a decision when we're hungry, a lot of the times it's not going to be the best decision versus if maybe we think about some ideas ahead of time. And so what I always talk to my patients and my clients about is like the more obstacles, the more challenges that we remove from when we are so busy to help us reach our goals, the better, because it is really difficult to think about those things when we are in the meat of the situation per se. So, but yeah, let's start with that, right? Okay, what is maybe one of the reasons why most meal plans don't work? And one of the main reasons is because it lacks personalization, right? When you look in, like if you type meal plan for weight loss, for example, or meal plan for muscle building, it's just a general guideline, right? So very general, and it gives you whatever information you want it to give you. But it's not personalized, right? And so it doesn't take into account maybe our preferences, our dietary restrictions, lifestyle factors. And so it leads to not want to continue to do it, right? It maybe it's difficult to stick to it because it's not something that is going to work specifically for us, right? And so that is, maybe one possible reason why most meal plans don't work. Second reason could be unsustainability, right? So if we think about, okay, I have this goal and it's a short-term goal and I want to go from A to B in this time, right? And I will follow that meal plan for that time frame. And yes, you might see results at that moment, right? But then what's going to happen when you stop that? It's that we're going to go back to our old behaviors, right? And we're going to go back to what we know and the habits that we have created up to that point, or maybe even before we started that plan, right? Because we are creatures of habit, right? And so we usually tend to go back to what feels good, what feels natural. And that's just our human nature. And so if we haven't established these habits to help us to continue to follow that plan long term, then we're just going to go back to what we were doing before. So sustainability is another one, right? It could be by maybe it is too restrictive, or it requires a significant time and effort to follow. So making it, very unsustainable long term. And so it is very unlikely for, to stop it essentially. And so that's another possible reason why a meal plan might not work. And then when we think about, if we see it, right, let's say, okay, we follow a meal plan and we see it as dieting or as diet or something that when we go into it, we feel like anxiety or we feel like, oh, man, I don't want to follow that. It's really also difficult to follow it, right? Because you're going into it already not feeling so thrilled about it. And so your brain naturally is like, oh, I don't want to do that. And so then, it's not sustainable again. So another possible reason why meal plans might not work or won't work, it's because of social and environmental factors, right? And so maybe the meal plan doesn't align with social gatherings or cultural practices or environmental considerations, making it more challenging to adhere to it or follow it. And so again, the meal plan is not working for you, right? And so if you're somebody that likes to enjoy outings, right, or likes to travel a lot, and you see the meal plan as a roadblock, right? Okay, I'm going to be on this meal plan for this amount of weeks, but then I'm going to go travel and I'm not going to follow it because who doesn't want to try foods when you're traveling, when you're on vacation, right? And so that could be another reason why. And then another possible reason could be that it's really strict, right? Almost like following a diet. And so then it creates a sense of failure when we are not sticking to it or when we don't follow it. And so then a whole other cascade of emotions and things come down, right? And so now we're feeling guilty. Now we're feeling discouraged. Now we're feeling like we can't do these, right? And it's not because we are failing at it. It's just because that meal plan wasn't meant for us, right? It's because that meal plan was too strict, too rigid, and it's just not working for us, right? That's not something that we see ourselves following it long term. So that's another possible reason why a meal plan won't work. Another one could be that maybe there's not enough resources, enough education or skill development to follow it. And so if there's not enough guidance, right, on the principles of nutrition or the cooking skills or what specifically you're struggling with, then it's going to be difficult to achieve it, right? So, for example, I have clients that hate cooking, right, or dislike cooking, or they're like, I'm not a cook, right? And so then we focus on specific techniques, simplifying the recipes, making sure that, hey, is this plan going to work for you? Now, I am giving you maybe these reasons why most meal plans are not going to work, because I want you to understand that before you start a meal plan, before you go and buy one, or before you go and follow one, you really have to ask yourself, number one, what is the reason why I want to do that? Number two, can I sustain it long term? Number three, what am I getting out? What am I learning from following this plan? Number four, can this align with my ethics, or does this align with just my life in general, right? And so if most of the answers to these questions are no, then what's going to happen is that, yeah, in the moment, maybe for a short period of time, you are going to follow it, right? Especially if it's a monetary reason, like you paid for it and you're like, okay, I need to follow that. But then long term, right, as you get into, maybe you become busier, you get busier, or maybe things happen, life happens, then we are steering away from it, right? Because we almost see it as a chore. We almost see it like, oh my gosh, it's just another thing that I have to do. If that is the case, right, you really have to find something that is going to work for you. One, to save money. Two, to save you the trouble of, getting into it and getting discouraged and feeling like, I can't do that, or I'm a failure, right? We want to try to avoid that as much as possible, because we don't want to feel, that we're not achieving what we want to achieve just because we're following something that is not aligned with us. So asking yourself those questions, right? Now, I am a meal plan expert, right? Well, I'm a dietitian, and so legally I'm able to create meal plans for my patients and my clients. There's some states, I'm in California, that we are protected by the law, right? If someone says, oh, I can make a meal plan for you and customize and personalize it, that is actually illegal if they are not dietitians, or if they don't have the credentialing to be able to do that, right? But anyway, I think I talked about that in another episode. So as a dietitian, right, meal planning is something that I use with all my clients, right? Or some components of it. But here is the caveat about my meal plans, is that when I sit down to talk about the goals of my patients, right? Let's, for example, you come in and see me and you have a specific goal, right? Because I ask lots of questions. I want to make sure that I am understanding the whole you. If there are any specific dietary restrictions, if there's a specific health condition that I need to know about, then I make sure I ask all those questions. I ask about food preferences. What are the foods that you dislike, or food that you will never eat, right? Because all those answers are going to help me to create this personalized, customized meal plan that, you're going to want to do. And so I ask all those questions for those reasons, right? Because I know that if one, I'll never give my clients a general, just one size fits all meal plan, right? Like that is just not right. So I spend time creating these meal plans for my patients with those answers in mind, but also thinking about, okay, you mentioned that you don't like cooking, right? So let's simplify this plan as much as we can to make it so doable for you, right? Like you're not spending hours and hours in the kitchen if you already don't like that, right? Because then what's going to happen is you're going to come to me and be like, hey, this was really difficult, right? And so again, I use meal plans all the time and I create meal plans all the time. But I already know, the questions that I need to ask and essentially how to create this meal plan specifically for my clients. But the other thing too, and I emphasize this significantly time after time, is that the meal plans that I'm creating for you are not a diet, right? I don't want you to take this meal plan and follow it to the T. I mean, ideally, right? If there is a specific goal that you want to follow and you want to achieve it. But I want you to understand the composition of the meal plan. I want you to understand why is it that I'm creating it this way, because I want you to take those tools and use them anywhere you go, right? If you're traveling and you want to, follow the structure of it, or you want to follow the tools around it, you can do that, right? When we stop working together, I want you to continue to use those tools, right? That you're learning with the meal plans that I'm creating and seeing how the meals are composed. So that way you continue to use them long term, right? I even encourage my clients to look into previous meal plans that I created. If for some reason you're not feeling like, oh, I don't want to have that meal that is for today, right? But I really feel like I want to have that meal that I had 2 meal plans ago. And you can go back to that, right? Because you get all the tools, you get the grocery list, you get the recipes, you get notes, right? And you get alternatives to some ingredients. And so then you have those tools that you can use that, right? For when you are creating these meals. So I always emphasize that, right? Because when your brain comes into that thought of restriction and you shouldn't have that, or on this rigid plan, you almost feel like you don't have control of things, right? Even though there is some control because you have that plan, but your brain feels like you don't have control over anything else, and you feel like you're stuck, right? And so then that affects essentially everything that we're going to do, because then we're going to feel like, oh my gosh, I can have a piece of chocolate and I really want a piece of chocolate right now, but I'm on this plan and I cannot have it, right? Again, that is having an unhealthy relationship with food. And so I always encourage my clients, hey, if there's one day where you feel like, I don't want to have that today, maybe I want to have something else, that's totally fine, right? I've had clients that ask me to, with this meal plan, can I still have a piece of chocolate, right? Or can I still have a cookie once in a while? And my answer is always, of course, right? This plan has to work for you. I'm not giving you a diet, right? I'm giving you a tool that you can use to achieve your goals, right? It's not something that is set in stone, and I'm not going to be there pounding it on you like, hey, you need to follow these 100% of the time, right? Because again, we go back to that restriction. We go back to feeling rigid and like I can never do anything else, right? Because I'm on that plan. So that's not how I work. My job one of the jobs as a dietitian is to provide you with the tools to educate you and show you and guide you on how to create these healthy and balanced meals. If it's meal prepping, if it's just guidance on how to do them without restriction, right? Because we already know, I guess, another huge reason why diets don't work, why rigid meal plans don't work, is because they are so strict and because they don't align with what we are doing currently, right? So there is that, my friend. Now, I want you to understand again, right? When you are thinking about, okay, I want to improve my nutrition, right? Or I want to eat healthier, or I want to make sure that maybe I'm optimizing my health for whatever goals that you have, that you really know what it is that you want, right? And you look at your week and you look at, okay, what do I want to do? What's the first step that I need to get me to my goal, right? And if meal plan is one of them, again, not going with just a general one size fits all meal plan, because now you're going to waste your time with that. But then you're not going to learn the tools that you need to continue to do it long term, right? So be clear with that, right? And then you can use recipes, right? If you feel comfortable with creating them yourself, like a meal plan yourself, use different recipes, right? That you're going to enjoy. Because again, you also have to think about, okay, am I going to enjoy these meals, right? Is this something that I'm going to eat it again and again, and I'm going to enjoy it, right? Because if you are not, right, then who wants to eat a meal that is like, oh, no, I have to eat this meal and I don't even like it, but I have to eat it, right? So then we lose that enjoyment of eating, and like, what's the point? So choose recipes that you feel like you're going to enjoy. Maybe there's a recipe that you're hesitant about, but you still want to give it a try. I've had different clients that I love that they're so honest, and they say, when you gave me that recipe, I was hesitant because I wasn't sure if I was going to like it, but I still give it a try and I actually really enjoy it, right? So give it a try too. The other thing too that I have to say is that with the meal plans that I create, right, it's not just like one and we follow it for months and months. I usually like to change them, right, every 2 weeks, every 4 weeks, max every 6 weeks, because we have to rotate our meals, right? And this is something that you can do too. Rotate your meals. Maybe gather a bundle of recipes and rotate them every so often so you don't get tired of eating the same things. Also, because when you think about eating the same meal over and over and over, one, you're not only getting tired of eating that meal, but two, you're only getting the nutrients that are in those foods, right? So for example, let's keep it super simple. You're only eating broccoli, chicken, and rice, right? You're only getting the nutrients from broccoli, chicken, and rice. So it's okay, right? Rotate it. Okay, maybe next time I'll do broccoli and quinoa and, I don't know, carrots, right? Or mixed vegetables. So you get the nutrients from different food groups, which is also essential, right? To get a variety of minerals, a variety of vitamins, antioxidants, and so on and so forth. So some tips there, right? Rotate your recipes, get a bundle of recipes, right? Choose the ones that you feel like, they're easy. Start with the easiest ones, right? Until you get your groove of things. And then rotate them as you go. And then batch cook, right? If you're doing meal prepping and you want to save some time, batch cook your meals, right? Meaning that you're going to cook a good amount of food for, a few days, 3 days maybe. I usually don't recommend cooking for like 5 days because, if you're someone that gets, grows by the time that is day 5 because maybe the quality of the food is not the best, then just do it, every 3 days or so on. Or you can batch cook for 5 days, but maybe freeze the Thursday and Friday. So that way it's still kind of fresh in that sense. But that's another way that you can do it too. Or if you're doing like a batch cook of your grains, right? You can do that, right? You can use like a rice cooker or something like that, and you can do that. Now, I do have clients that are really busy, right? And I completely understand that because I am a business owner. I am a mom, a wife. And so there's time where I don't have the time to like be there and chop things, right? Or cook the proteins or whatever the case may be. And so some of the tips there, if you're so busy and you're like, man, I only have like 30 minutes to cook a meal and then that's it. What I usually suggest is buy pre-cut food, right? Especially your produce, vegetables and fruits, or frozen ones if you're going to use them for like smoothies or add them to your overnight oats or whatever the case may be. But for sure your vegetables, because even if you think, okay, how long can it take me to like wash the vegetables and like pre-cut them? Sometimes we don't even have those 5-10 extra minutes. So if that is the case, right, it's totally okay to buy them already prepared. Of course, they're going to be a little bit more expensive, but you have to like give that trade-off, right? Like, do I spend a little bit more on something that is already ready to go, or do I spend the time, right? So you have to have that trade-off there. So there's so many already, or so many vegetables that are already pre-cut or pre-cooked. One example, for instance, Trader Joe's. I usually buy at Trader Joe's like my groceries, and they have like this tray of asparagus that are already trimmed, and you just put it in the microwave for like 2.5 minutes, and they're ready. And they usually come out really good, versus buying them in a bag or in a bunch and then having to wash them and like trim them and then season them and whatever, steam them. Now, I've done that. I've done both ways, right? I go back and forth. And what I've noticed is that I'm actually eating the asparagus that are already prepared, because again, I can just put them in the microwave or in the steamer for like 2 minutes. Bam, right? That saves me 5 minutes or whatever. So again, it doesn't seem like a lot, but when you're so busy, or when you're short on time, those extra minutes can really make a difference. So that's totally fine. Now, there are also some places, I know Costco, and I'm sure other places, Trader Joe's, I want to say that Sprouts do, and maybe other, like Save More, Bonds, depending where you live. I've seen that they already have pre-cooked proteins, so like chicken and steak, turkey, that you can buy and like use it for your week, right? And that's totally fine too. Of course, if those proteins have heavy sauces or extra oil or extra seasonings that are oil based, they are going to add more calories, right? But there are some that are only flavor, right, with like maybe some salt and some herbs and spices, and you can use that. That's absolutely okay. Again, it saves you some time. They are more expensive, right? But again, you have to have that trade-off. So you have to use these tools to your advantage, right? You really have to know, okay, how much time do I have to cook, right? Like, let me get a little plan here for me. Because if this is something that I really want to do and something that I've been wanting to do, but maybe I have no idea where to start, or maybe I don't know what to do or like how to do it, right? Get a plan for yourself, right? And maybe do some steps. Okay, when can I do my cooking, right? Do I want to do it the weekend? Do I want to do it maybe a Monday or maybe my day off, and I can cook for like 3 to 4 days? Or can I delegate some of these tasks to my spouse or an older child or something like that, right? Again, something that is going to work for you. Second thing, getting the bundle of recipes to help you, right? So that way okay, these are the ingredients that I need. I got the ingredients. I have everything ready. Let's get cooking, right? Because if you don't have that, right, if you want to do a recipe but you don't have the ingredients, now we're back into these obstacles and challenges. So we end up not doing it, right? Because we don't have the tools. We don't have what we need. And then again, if you get tired or bored of eating the same things, just switch it up, right? Rotate your recipes. Ask your family, if you have, if you cook for someone else, ask them, okay, what would you like to eat? Or what are some choices? That can be a little difficult because sometimes they're like, I don't know, whatever, it doesn't matter. And then you like end up in like square one. But maybe some of the recipes that you made in the past, okay, which ones do you want to have this week, right? And narrow it down like that. So anyway, my friends, to recap, right? We talked about why most meal plans don't work. Some of the things that we said is like they're too restrictive or too rigid. They're not personalized or customized. Maybe we don't have the tools or we don't know how to make them. Maybe they're too difficult and complicated, too many ingredients. Maybe they don't align with our current lifestyle, or maybe we feel that they're like something that we don't want to do or something that we don't want to follow. And then we talked about how to create a meal plan that is going to work for you, right? Rotating different recipes, batch cooking, using a plan that is customized, individualized for you, and that it meets your goals. And I have a gift for you, right? So let me show it to you again, my friend. If you are just listening, don't worry. You can always head to my YouTube video, which is linked in the show notes. But you're also going to get the resource or the gift in the show notes. So head over to the show notes and you can view it that way. But I'm going to share it with you so you can just have a visual. I know sometimes people are like, I would like to see what is that about, right? And this is pretty much what essentially I provide to my clients when we are meal planning, right? Something along those lines. But I created this bundle for you of recipes. It's just 15 recipes, right, that you can use to help you with your meals, right? Again, this is not a plan that I'm telling you to follow per se, but just use it as a tool to help you generate more ideas, maybe to add to your repertoire of recipes, foods that you want to try. But I try to gather recipes that are pretty simple to use. Now, when you look at the recipe, it says 6 servings, right? Like if you wanted to cook for multiple days, maybe for you or someone else. But you can always, divide ingredients by the amount of servings that you want to make. It's not going to be 100% accurate in that sense, but it will give you an idea. But basically, each recipe is going to have some notes, is going to have directions and ingredients, and so you can create your own grocery list. But I give you 15 recipes, right? A combination of plant-based and animal protein sources. There's some with the air fryer or one pan, and different types of cuisines, if you want to call it. There's wraps, that if you want to do that for like your lunches, because you're busy and you're like, I don't have a lot of time to spend a lot of time cooking my lunch or eating my lunch. Hopefully you have at least 20 minutes. But there's different recipes here that you can use for like breakfast, lunch, dinner, and create again your own recipes, create your own plan, rotate them, add them to the list that you already have, and give them a try. So that resource is there for you. Again, it's totally free. You don't have to pay me anything. You'll find it in the show notes, right? I'll give you a link where you can download it and you'll have it right away. But if you have more questions, or if you are wanting maybe your own individualized meal plan that you want me to make it for you, head over to, again, the show notes, and then I'll add my email. So you can email me there. That will be probably the fastest way that you can reach out to me for that. And then we can get you going. All right. So there's that resource for you. But that is pretty much it, my friend, for today's episode. I thought I was going to be able to make it in a short amount of time, but I get really passionate about these things and I can talk about nutrition and different topics, related topics forever. But anyway, so I hope you enjoyed this episode. Thank you again for supporting me. Thank you for listening to these episodes. Share it with a friend. Don't forget to follow me on wherever you listen to your podcast, or like the videos on YouTube. Share it with a friend or a family member. And that is it, my friends. So take care, stay strong, and stay safe. We'll talk to you and see you in another episode. Bye-bye for now. This podcast, the links and resources provided are for the purpose to educate only and are not a replacement for medical advice or nutrition therapy. I suggest you seek out the help of a trained professional to help you with your specific situation and needs.